Got it.
Recording in progress, friends. Hi, welcome to some people's favorite Career Lab session, Andrew's. Watch your mentors interview each other. And so the reason that we have this session, well, the reason we have this whole week, right, is to prepare you for actually doing interviews. And we've always thought that it could be very helpful to just watch this kind of go down live with mentors who are experienced in interviewing. So we've done this session a few times now, where we start with somebody doing a mock job fit interview and somebody doing a mock technical interview, similar to the ones you'll be doing throughout the week. One thing that I had wished for that I'm going to try and do this time, and I'm kind of nervous about, is in the job fit interviews that had been done in the past, it's an experienced mentor, right? So they have years of experience to draw from, and it makes interviewing all the easier. And I really wanted to take this time to kind of go back in my experience and nix some of my former experiences and just think about what it would be like to be freshly coming out of boot camp and out of Collab Lab with some other career changey experience. So today, I'm nervous because I feel like I'm going to get caught up and not know how to not use my experiences, but I'm going to interview with Andrew. He's going to be the interviewer. I'm going to be the interviewee for a job fit interview. And I'm only going to consider my experiences as a certified nurse's assistant from my past and the fact that I just got out of boot camp and Collab Lab. So I'm kind of playing a role, but everything is authentic stuff, but I'm hoping to maybe give you all some languages that you can, or some ideas that you can pull from, or something, I don't know, but it's gonna be fun. And then after that, so do know when you're listening to me, if I say something, you shouldn't assume that that's my actual real life experience because I'm kind of putting on for this. Okay, so also after we do ours, Scott is going to interview Juliana in a technical mock interview. So this is being recorded if anybody wants to watch it. And with that, any other final words before we go into this really uncomfortable, intimate part of the job hunt?
I have a feeling you're going to do okay, Stacey.
We'll see.
Yeah, should we just get started? I have a timer set so that I will end at 3:30, no matter what, and that should give enough time for Scott and Juliana to do like 20 minutes, and then we can debrief for maybe 10 minutes or something at the end. Does that sound like it works?
Yeah, I love that.
Okay. Okay, cool. So, all right. So, hi, Stacey. It's great to meet you. So I'm excited to talk to you about a role on my team. I'm an engineering manager at Zapier. So I lead a small team of just 3 engineers who work on what we call usage expansion at the company. So what that means is, Zapier is a freemium tool. So there are free accounts where you can do a certain amount of tasks and different things. And then, you need to upgrade in order to go to a paid plan in order to do sort of premium features or a higher volume of tasks. So our job as a team is to try to move those users from free to paid accounts. So there are a bunch of things we do around that, but so that's a little bit about the role. It's a front end role. Yeah, and I could go on about Zapier, but what I want to do is actually hear about you and how did you, maybe just tell me about how you got into web development.
Oh, awesome. Yes. First of all, I'm super excited about Zapier. I've been digging in over the last few days, and I'm very excited about this role. So a little bit about me is I'm very much a person who is driven by human connection. And so I've always had this idea that my goal in life is to help other people, right? And so I started my career in healthcare as a certified nurse's assistant. So I was a CNA and never really considered that software development was something that I could do. And I started seeing more and more people go to these boot camps, and it really starts making you think differently about the role technology plays in your life. And for me, as a nurse's assistant, looking at the technology we're using, I was like, there is so much room for improvement. Why are these so hard to use? And so I started dabbling in some learning how to code at home and eventually realized like this is something I really wanted to pursue. And so I went to a full stack developer boot camp. And that was a really great experience for learning the basics, learning how to actually code, getting to build some things and see them working, which was really inspiring. And I got out of boot camp like, all right, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to get a job and start making the world a better place by building things. But I found that I didn't have a lot of the kind of team experience that a lot of these jobs were asking for. So I found and joined this organization called the Collab Lab, where early career engineers like me can get experience working on a remote team of software developers to build an app, right? And so we did a lot of pair programming, and it was really focused around collaboration. So it was really exciting to see code that me and my partners would build go into building this complete app that people could actually use. And that was super exciting for me. We worked through all these tickets using agile methodologies, and I learned a lot being on that team, not just about, technical things because we were writing code and building an app, but how to work with people and how to share work and build things that everybody could understand. So that's kind of where I'm at in my journey. I'm in a place right now where I'm trying to fully transition into software development. And that's when I was telling you I was so excited about Zapier because, as I mentioned, I feel like it's my purpose in life to help people. And I thought once I started this software development journey that if I can use my skills to build things that help people, my help can become exponential, right? I can start helping so many more people by building one thing. And that makes my heart happy. So seeing that you all are trying to democratize automation for people, making it super easy to use, I was like, think of all the people we can help. Yeah. So that's my journey. That's where I'm at right now. Bootcamp grad, looking to learn and grow with a team of developers that can support me.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you hit the nail on the head about Zapier too. It's an automation company, so you can build one small thing that helps like a small business be able to sort of punch above their weight and that kind of thing.
Exactly. So it makes me think like, so we had lots of tools that we worked on in the nursing home that I worked at, and all of the tools were so clunky and they seemed so archaic. And I grew up with technology, so for me working them was fine. I could figure them out. They weren't great, but they did the thing they were supposed to do. But watching people like these nurses that are 40 years older than me, who have never really had to deal with technology like this, get so frustrated by how hard these tools were to work with is heartbreaking. It like hampers their ability to give good care. So if we can do that, if we can make automation easy for everyone, everybody's lives get better, and then they can start focusing on humans and helping people. And I love that.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned this program, the Collab Lab. Sounds really interesting. And Zapier is a 100% remote organization, and you mentioned that you were working remotely. So what were some of the things that were either like what were some of the strategies maybe you used to do that, or like things that maybe there was friction? Like what were the hard parts of that?
Oh gosh, strategies and or friction. So I think like one of our main means of communication was Slack. We did a lot of our work in Slack, but we also focused a lot on pair programming, which largely happened over Zoom, which can be a good thing and a piece of friction, right? So basically every week at Collab Lab, we'd split up into pairs of 2 developers, and we worked with the other developer to finish a ticket for the week. And there was this one kind of aha moment I had in the program when me and my partner got together and we were talking about the ticket we were going to work on for the week. And we knew we had a really busy week ahead of us. So we thought, let's take this time to just wrap our heads around the ticket, delegate work so that we can each work together, like work on something separate and then put it together. And then we don't have to meet for the rest of the week. We'll just work asynchronously. And we were working on the same branch. And as the week went on and we're committing to this branch, we're hitting all sorts of conflicts and starting to realize, I don't think we're working towards the same goal anymore. And we experienced a lot of frustration trying to convey in Slack what we were thinking and in merge requests and notes and code. And it was just getting very cluttered and confusing, and everybody was frustrated because we weren't on the same page. And when it came down to it, we just hopped on a Zoom call together and talked through it. And that was such an aha moment for me, because I, in the past, have felt very intrusive when I ask somebody to get on a Zoom call with me and talk through. And it feels like you're taking up a lot of their time, and that can be really uncomfortable. But the aha moment for me was that in situations like this, where you're working remotely, getting on Zoom calls like that to hash things out when there's frustration or when there's confusion isn't a waste of time. It's absolutely a time saver, because after that call, we were so easily able to get on the same page so that we could work through the issue. And not only that, we were able to take everything we learned and fix the ticket so that future teams at Collab Lab had a better ticket to work off and could understand and maybe not experience some of that friction. So I think when it comes to remote work, chatting asynchronously in Slack can be really great, and it's beautiful for documentation, especially if you default to transparency, right? And keep everything in the open so that people can find it later on. But when there is tension, when there is friction, getting on a Zoom call can be your best friend and can help you move so much faster and just create a better team.
Yeah, that's great. Love that story. So I guess I'm curious what would be a great team for you to be on? What would be things about a team that would make it hard for you to work with them?
What would be great and what would be hard? So I think that one thing that I'm really looking for is a space where people really want to help and mentor people. I would like to be in a place where I feel very supported and where people are eager to help me. As I mentioned before, sometimes I can get kind of shy and don't want to feel like I'm bothering people. And so if I can come into a space where people are very welcoming and they're expecting to help me, that would make me feel very supported and give me more confidence in asking questions. I think that on the flip side of that exact statement, I would struggle going into a space where people didn't want to collaborate, where people worked very, like solo on all projects and didn't have time to help or share or give advice. That would be a harder environment for me to be in. So just a supportive place where people want to help and work together.
Yeah. Well, I can assure you that my team, they love to collaborate. They're talking all the time. They're pairing and mobbing and those kinds of things.
I love that.
Pretty much every day. So yeah.
That's really exciting. So when they're working together, when they're mobbing and pairing, is it that they're working on one ticket together, or are they just all working on the same feature? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's a little bit of both. So yeah, sometimes they may be kind of pairing on a particular issue, trying to work as a team to come up with maybe the approach or how to solve the problem. Sometimes they'll just get on a call and just work on separate things and just kind of have each other there, if they just want to, just kind of like, yep. So it really just depends on the situation. In general, we try to organize the work so that the team, it's very clear what the top priority is for the team. And then it's kind of up to the team to figure out how to solve the problem. If they need to work together on it, they will. If they can break it up into smaller tasks that each person kind of does in parallel, they'll do that. But they're pretty self-organizing that way.
That's awesome. That sounds like there's quite a bit of collaboration. That's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me about some work you've done that you're really proud of.
Oh, work I've done that I'm really proud of. So because it's most fresh in my mind, I constantly want to talk about the work that I did at Collab Lab. So as I mentioned before, I'm really passionate about helping people. And I learned in boot camp a little bit about accessibility. The basics, like you need specific color contrasts and different types of text, and your images need alt text so that people can use them. But I'm really proud of the work that my team at the Collab Lab did to make our app accessible. Because the stuff that I learned in boot camp was great for if you're reading a web page, for example. But when you're actually building tools that people interact with, forms that need to be accessible, drop downs that need to be tabbable, like when somebody's going to interact with an entire thing that you're building in an accessible way, I was really proud of how much work and effort we were able to put into that. And there's so much more for me to learn in that space, but I could see myself becoming really passionate about taking everything I learned there through my career, especially as I continue on this mission to sort of help people. Like I've experienced a lot of people in my past as a certified nurse's aide, like a lot of people with different disabilities, including situational disabilities. And the idea that I can be building things for all of those people every day is really inspiring for me.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this Collab Lab thing must really be pretty fantastic.
Oh, I love it. It's a beautiful program. I fully intend to, once I kind of get my technical chops in order, go back and start kind of helping mentor and helping bring other people up too, because it's such a supportive space to be in and taught me basically everything that I know today about collaborating on a team. And I want to give that back.
Yeah. I bet you'd make a great Collab Lab mentor. Maybe tell me about a situation where you felt the need to sort of speak up, to be kind of assertive in order to get a point across that was important to you.
Yeah, so regularly, I'll start by saying, it can be hard to communicate these kinds of things in a remote environment when you only have Slack. And so I tend to lean on using a lot of GIFs and emojis and stuff to convey how I'm feeling, because sometimes words just don't cut it. But there was a time on my team at Collab Lab where we couldn't quite agree on how we were going to handle moving our tickets around the board, essentially, like when they're in progress, when they're done, and how are you going to manage that? And I very firmly believe that we should add another column that was in review so that we could be more specific about where everything stood in the process. And people a lot of times don't like to add more process to things, but I think sometimes it can be really helpful. And in this case, I really felt that it could be. And so I gave the team my reasoning. I demonstrated how I thought we could do this. And then I gave them a deadline. I said, we're only going to try this for the next 2 weeks, because I think people don't want to feel like something is forever. If they don't want to do something, they don't want that to be a forever thing. So I think giving them, and this is something too that, I learned in my past experience working with people in nursing homes and in healthcare settings, it's they don't want to hear that something like this is forever. So giving an end date where we will reevaluate and try something else if that didn't work seems to really help in that kind of situation. And I've applied that on several occasions and had really good results with that. So I think when you have to speak up to get your point across, giving people your reasoning and kind of giving them an out if it doesn't work, and if you do happen to be wrong, is really, really important and really helpful for getting people to buy in to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it makes it a little less threatening.
Right.
If they're like, well, we'll talk about it again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
The 2 weeks makes me wonder if were you doing kind of sprints or something, or like how was the project organized?
So it was organized in 1 week sprints. So at the beginning of the week, a developer pair would be given one ticket that they were supposed to finish in 1 week. And at the end of that week, we would have a weekly sync where we would get together and demo the work that we did. And then the second week, we would do the same thing. We would each pair would pick up a ticket. We'd work through it. At the end of that week, we would have a retrospective where we talk about the things that did and didn't work and how we could improve, and share appreciations about teammates and stuff. So I suppose if a sprint is from retro to retro, 2 week sprints, but if it's from demo to demo, 1 week sprints, I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hybrid, huh? Yeah, I mean, our team does, kind of more, I guess, a little more traditional, where it's every 2 weeks we're demoing and retroing on the same day.
Okay.
Yeah, and then doing, just kind of a like refinement kind of regularly of upcoming work and getting priorities from our product manager. Refinement. So that means that the team gets together, we look at tickets on the board, and we go kind of ticket by ticket and just make sure the team understands what's expected, and to give them a chance to clarify any questions they have about what is being asked of them.
So when they're asking for clarification and such in this refinement, do they have any buy-in to what's actually being built, or is it kind of like they get given tickets, they just have to go build it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Used to be on this team that they were more or less kind of given stuff that was sort of ready to be done, and they would just be like, oh yeah, we can do that or we can't do that, with sort of minimal product input. And so we tried recently to bring the team in earlier to have more kind of more influence over the actual thing that we're building. So it's been a really positive change for the team. I feel like they're like much more kind of engaged in what we're building. They're like, you know, we measure things. We have all this kind of data analytics tracking stuff that we do, and the team knows what the data is and wants to see the results of it and things. Whereas
So
before they felt like it was kind of somebody else's responsibility before. So
right, totally. I ask because I think like when I'm looking at all this software now that I've learned a little bit how to code, I look at software differently, right? And I'm like, I wonder if they ever talked to a user about this, or if this was just people who have only ever been in software development building these things. And I think that kind of when I've been going through Collab Lab and I meet a bunch of people like me who are career changers who have a lot of other experiences to bring to the software development game, I sort of feel like it's a superpower that we have experienced humans in other capacities that we can, you know, empathize with and bring into the software development process. And I would love to be in a space on a team where I could use some of my past experiences to kind of, you know, sway the things that we're building, or at least have some input and have that be heard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love working with career switchers for that very reason, because especially a group that has people from a bunch of different backgrounds. Yeah, it just helps sort of eliminate blind spots on the team.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe try to think of maybe one last question, and then we'll give you a chance, like a couple minutes to ask me some questions. So maybe just knowing what you know about this role and the team and Zapier and things, like what do you kind of foresee would be the biggest challenge for you in the role?
I have to say, as an early career engineer who hasn't been at a big company like this, I'm very intimidated by how it all works. I'm not sure how it works in a big company like this. I'm not sure, you know, like what's happening behind the scenes, what kind of systems are in place. And so I feel like there's going to be a lot for me to learn on the job. And I think that as long as I'm in a supportive environment that is open to helping and like wants to help, and I can ask questions very freely to, I think I'll be really successful. But I have to admit, I'm super nervous to come onto a team like this and feel isolated and feel like I don't know who to ask what, because there's like things I can Google for, right? How to do certain things. But when it's like institutional knowledge, I can't Google for that. And so
yeah, sure.
I'm hoping that if I come onto the team, that there will be people there to welcome me and support me in getting up to speed and learning.
Yeah, and the good news there is that Zapier in general and this team in particular are very supportive and very, like, you know, just willing to jump in and answer questions and you know, get on a call and pair, or just, you know, like really have the attitude of like there are no stupid questions, really, you know. Yeah.
Love that. So very intimidated by all these big systems, but confident that I can learn if given the chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the hardest parts is just all the jargon. So, you know, I always encourage new people on my team to just, you know, like, hey, you know, what does this acronym mean? You know, like, that's always an okay question to ask. I do that sometimes, even after being there for 3 years. But we still have like 2 minutes left. So do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I am curious to know more about your leadership style, since you would be my manager right on board.
Yeah. So I tend to think of myself as serving the team. So, you know, the team is, you know, we have this structure called EPD. So we have an engineering manager, that's me, product manager, and a designer. And that trio provides sort of direction and leadership for a group of engineers. So, but really the engineers who are doing, like, kind of getting the thing done, right? So we try to organize around, you know, making sure priorities are clear, making sure you have the tools you need, you know, just making sure that you don't have to think about anything but actually getting the work done. So I try to just, you know, focus on that as much as I possibly can. You know, I tend to be very supportive. So my leadership style is what's called affiliative. So very focused on relationships and making sure people are like feeling like they're, you know, they're supported in things. Anyway, I could go on about leadership styles, but if you have other questions, I don't want to, like, we are running out of
No,
time. So
yeah, that was great.
okay.
You know what? Generally, I was going to ask something about like, can you tell me about a time your team didn't hit a deadline and what happened, how you navigated that? But we are at time, so let's just cut it. But know that I was going to ask that question.
Okay, we can follow up on email and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm really excited to hear from you. So talk to you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Good job, Stacey.
And action.
Cut. Yeah. Scene.
I was really hoping I was going to be asked something more about. I wanted to say I didn't know more. I was like, I had this goal to come in here and be like, no, I don't know the answer to that, but blah, blah, blah. Thanks, friends. Anyway, thanks, Andrew. That was great.
It's hard to act.
It is. It is. Okay,
Yeah,
with that, we will do questions afterwards or comments or whatever you want to share, but let's hop into Scott interviewing Juliana.
Okay. Okay, so just
Scott, your mic is a little weird right now.
Yeah. Choose one. No, still weird.
I'm weird.
It's like robotic. It's like.
Oh, no. Let me try this.
It does sound like you're talking into a fan, so I thought that
Is
was.
that better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Sorry, so I want to clear up one thing first, and it's that I am, as I've explained to some of you many, many times by now, so much that you must be getting tired of hearing about it. I am a backend developer generally, so I had to look up some JavaScript questions. But Juliana, before we start the interview, are you comfortable being interviewed on JavaScript concepts and stuff like that?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, cool. I'm the only one here who only knows like the weird languages, so that's.
We're proud of you, Scott. We're proud of you for doing it anyway.
This is a growth moment for me. So I'm going to enter character now, right? So, hi, Juliana. Thank you so much for taking the time to interview me, or to be interviewed by me here, and we're really looking forward to seeing how you do. I know there's been some great feedback from the team already, so I just figured I'd kind of hop right into it. Now, I have some kind of basic questions I like to ask first that are kind of general knowledge / type questions, and then I like to jump directly after that into some CoderPad style stuff. So I'll send you a link to a CoderPad, and out of character, if you don't mind, like sharing your screen when I've got that up, then we can just sort of do some of the coding questions that way, if that's all right with you.
For sure, yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Alrighty. So first of all, just kind of some, like I said, trivia style questions. We'll get these out of the way real quick. Can you explain to me what's the DOM?
Yeah, sure. The DOM is the document object model, which is the way that browsers map the different HTML elements that you see on screen. The DOM is a really important part of the way that we develop web applications. And actually, I'll throw in a fun one. There is this sort of like a shadow DOM that's used by assistive technologies. So that's also why it's really important to use semantic HTML so that your DOM render creates an effective like shadow DOM for assistive technologies.
That sounds incredibly important. Okay, cool. So here's a question I genuinely don't know the answer to. I'm excited to learn. What's the difference between a double equals and a three equals, and how do you pronounce the three equals signs one?
I think the three equals, it's called a strict equality. So
I've been saying three equals.
I love that. We can make that a thing.
Popular, it's like normalized three equals. That's my.
I love that. Yeah, so the two equal signs will allow JavaScript to do its JavaScript magic, which means that if you have like a number or a string, so you have like a 2 and then like double equals a string 2, JavaScript will like do its magic with dynamic, I think it's called dynamic typing, but I'm not sure on that one. Anyways, JavaScript will force those two to be equal. But if you had that in like a three equals, then that would not work. Like JavaScript will check both the type of value and the value itself.
Gotcha. Cool. Here's a question that I bet no one's had to think of answering for a long while, but again, humor me from being outside the domain of interest here. What's the difference between React and Ajax?
Between React and Ajax?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So I started web development in 2015, 2016. So I barely skipped Ajax. I think Ajax is the way that we used to do fetch requests, but now JavaScript has its own fetch method. And React is arguably a framework or a library. I refer to it as a library. Frameworks usually take care of a lot of different sort of like setup that React doesn't take care of. So that's why I call it a library. I think that's the popular opinion on the webs these days.
Okay, and my last question is kind of a situational question. And it's, let's say that you are maybe you're a developer, there's a web product that you've built, and maybe you're on call that week and support chimes in indicating that a customer has told you that the web page is loading really slowly. And I'm wondering, what are some causes of that? What are some things you might want to know in order to ascertain why that's happening? What's your thought process when you hear that?
That's a good one. Being on call is interesting. I have been on call for a while now. The first things that I like to check whenever I get a ping from well, we use PagerDuty. So whenever I get a PagerDuty ping, the first things that I like to check is see what kind of messages our error reporting is getting. So we use Bugsnag. I know that there's a lot of other places you can send your errors to. Bugsnag is really good to see if it's like on a whole app level. So I try to see if check Bugsnag, especially if it's like a front end thing. If it's a service thing, check Datadog and see like what the logs are showing. And if it's somebody that actually comes to me, like pings me, hey, we're getting a lot of these, I would try to, the first thing everyone always asks is like, how do you reproduce it? You know, like we need some like solid, tangible, like what browsers are you on? What steps are you taking? If it's like, I'm doing this and this and this is slow, then I try to reproduce it onto my machine until I can reproduce it on my machine, because it's very hard to debug something unless you can reproduce it. So yeah, those are the first sort of steps that I take when I get pinged. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I'd like to go into a little more detail on kind of a follow-up here, which is that let's say that you encountered a web page and you were able to reproduce a performance problem. Let's say that there's, you know, I guess if you were told that your responsibility is to speed up a web page, how would you accomplish that? Where are some things you would look first?
So I think I don't have too much experience with performance. I think that one of my mentors, I think the best piece of advice around performance that I've gotten is like, don't optimize for performance off the bat. Rather try and like do things the way you would do, and then you know, make it better, make it fast. Check the performance, see what's going on. So with my sort of limited knowledge on performance, always check like what requests are going out, how many are going out, see if you can consolidate those, see if you can like optimize the way you're making your request. Maybe you don't have to get all the information from different endpoints. Maybe you can do something like grouping them into one endpoint, or using something very fast and efficient like GraphQL. And then after I do like my preliminary check, I'm not afraid to ask a higher level engineer their thoughts, their opinions. I think one of the greatest things about software engineering is like the support, and I definitely think that if I got stuck, what I usually do when I get stuck is like I'll try and like time box the time I spend on a problem myself and then go ask somebody else. You know, there's no need to reinvent the wheel when we've got so many smart people working.
I want to note out of character as well. I think these are great. These last two answers are awesome because they show a depth of experience and a willingness and sort of openness to like maybe not need to know everything, which is way better than someone giving the wrong answer to a question. Like that is maybe giving an answer that's just like, well, maybe I don't have a lot of experience with this, but I know the right people to ask. I know the right places to look for more information about things. Those are great kinds of answers to situational technical questions if you're not like able to provide maybe a specific answer that you think that the interviewer might be looking for. So just wanted to call that out while we're in the middle. But yeah, so I'm going to send you a code share link in Slack. And if you don't mind sharing your screen when you get it, we'll do the we'll do the coder pad thing here.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Oh, can someone give me permission to share my screen, please?
Stacy, I think we might
good
need you
now.
for that. Yeah, cool.
Thanks, y'all.
Awesome. Alrighty, so you can see here we've got the first question of a few that I've prepared, and so this one you can see a really basic code sample here. Much like with the sort of trivia questions, these are going to slightly increase with difficulty as we go along, but I have I think a total of 4, and as many as we get through is fine. But so question 1 is there's a problem with this code, and I'd like to know which line it's on and how you would fix it.
Okay. Interesting. Does this platform have like a console?
I don't think it does.
Okay. I went right
So
away.
unfortunately, we. Oh, sorry.
Outside of this, I did do a take home. Did you want to see that? We're gonna get to the take home.
Yes, we're going to get to the take home because I'm really bad at reviewing JavaScript. It's going to be a lot better for us to look at a few parts of code that I have some experience with.
That's all good with me. How do I run this code? I'd love to see what it is that it's printing.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's so this is the sort of interview where I'd prefer if we didn't run it. It's more interesting to me that we walk through line by line and locate problems that way.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't have a built-in IDE-based CoderPad style thing. This one is just like Sublime Text in a browser.
No worries. Could you tell me a little bit what myfunc is supposed to do?
Yeah, myfunc is a really basic function that is meant to basically take, it's going to declare a variable, that variable is name, and then it's going to change the name in the middle of the function arbitrarily for no particular reason. And then it's going to raise a console alert, little window as a browser, just containing that name as a string. The second one, ideally.
Okay. Cool. Knowing that, I'd say probably I'm not sure which name you wanted to alert, but you're declaring name quite a few times. When you declare name on line 3, line 11 is going to alert John because you're declaring it in the global scope. But then when you go into my function, you're declaring name again, which I don't think it's going to let you because you already declared it. And if it did let you, it would change it to Nick, and then it would change it to Abraham. So my function would always alert Abraham.
So the question I have here is there any kind of issue that might arise from the fact that we're letting both of these names instead of declaring the variables in a different way?
Oh, yeah, you can only, when you declare a a variable with let, you are allowed to change it. You just don't need to use let every time that you change it. So you could change line 6 and 5 and 6 to,
Mhm.
you could get rid of let on 5 and 6.
Mhm.
And then that'll make your variable changeable without the problems. But you are
Okay.
changing it twice.
That's true. That's fair enough. Okay, let me take this. This one was a little bit abstract, and I realized that what's wrong with this code questions are a little bit. They're more of a back end kind of exercise, I think. What I'd like for you to do here, if you don't mind, is write a function that detects a palindrome. Do you know? Are you aware what a palindrome is?
Palindrome is a word that is the same the front ways as backwards, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And I can use my trusty MDN, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to declare a function. Well, I like to declare consts as functions. I don't really declare functions that much, but honestly, it's just my style. I can adapt to whatever a team is using.
That's perfectly okay with me.
I'm gonna check on MDN. I love checking on everything on MDN, like between all of us forever. I think you can.
I don't know MDN.
MDN is like the handbook for JavaScript.
Hmm,
I really like
gotcha.
using it to like check like if I know that I'm gonna work with a string, I sort of like going on the side here and like checking all the methods that I have available to me, because I think there's one that's no. Will you mind if I Google reverse a string? Is that too
Sure.
close to the
No, please do. That's all right.
reverse string? Yeah, right, that there's a string reverse. Zoom is like really getting in my way here.
Sorry about that.
No, no worries. Complete replace. Let two strings. Okay, I have an idea. I don't know if this is the most effective, but we're gonna take the word and for each, I'm gonna declare let, and then I'm gonna take for each. I'm gonna use it for each and forever. How to use it? I'm personally a map girl, but map splits out another array, so for each. Can you use a for each on a string? Let me check something too. Just want to see if. Oh, why do you do this to me, console?
I believe you're gonna want to do new string there instead of hello.
Oh, good catch, Scott. Thanks for helping me out with that. Yeah. Use string is not a function. Okay. I think I can't use this on cast it to an array. Hold on. Let me look again what I have. or
Is there a function that can turn a string into an array?
there is. I just want to, before I cast it to an array, I want to make sure. I just want to read what these things. I feel like these people have an easy answer. Reverse string, return string. What? Split, reverse, join. Shall we do that then? I feel like I cheated. I'm sorry, everyone.
Sorry, I'm coming in hot with these these nonsense questions from my own interview experience, just written in JavaScript. So
Yeah, no worries. Word. Close, word, split. Let's split it on. I think this splits it on every.
yeah, I believe that should be a null delimiter, which is to say every character.
Yeah, that one. Good one. And then, see, I knew that there was a reverse, but this goes like this. Join. Backward. Join. And then if join. Look, now we get to use our
Three calls.
three goals. Return true. Oops. And then on my editor, I would make this pretty.
That's okay. Because this is mainly a concept-based interview, not like, can I get the IDE to run an interview? I don't really care about like semicolons or spacing or anything. But let me ask you this: what if in the course of what if I told you that like this has to work for the following inputs? So this will currently work, as best as I can tell, for something like kayak, right? Or go hang a salami. I'm a lasagna hog. But what if I needed it to work for something like a man, a plan, a canal, panel? In fact, what if that P is a capital letter?
Oh, interesting. Okay. I would change the way that I split it. Maybe check to see like if there's a good regex I can use that splits it on space it or huh. What did I do? This one? No, you know what? I would still split it on every one. And then I'd love to be able to run this code. This is a little bit hard on this. Because what I think that might work is that if you split the word into the array, and then maybe what you can do is join that array so that's just like one whole part. And then just sort of like check it by letters. That might work. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. And that one's, I think, a little bit beyond the scope of the time we've got. Let me ask you this as well. How would you go about modifying this to handle, let's say that we include in our list of valid inputs for a palindrome? something like that. Just an integer that happens to also be a palindrome.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So let's say we need to include among our valid inputs something like 12321, an integer that is also a palindrome. Because right now, if we put that in here, will that succeed or fail? And this is a genuine question because I don't know JavaScript very well.
It will succeed.
Is it because of three equals?
Pardon?
Is that because of three equals? Because I don't understand how, if you put this into Python, that would fail. And because it's like type problem. Good luck. have a nice day.
This is a good time for me to stop you both. I'm sorry. Time is up.
Gotcha. Sorry about that. We didn't do the we didn't end up getting to the code review, and I'd be happy to continue with that, but I know we're on a tight timetable here, so.
I just want to respect people's time, give them a chance to ask some questions about it. I mean, I think there was some good stuff from what you did too. So I would love to hear, because I mean I feedback for Stacy and like just kind of like you know, from what I saw, but I'd love to also hear from all of you if there were things you noticed about how the interviews went, like what did you think of the questions I asked? What did you think of how Stacy answered for Scott and Juliana too? Any observations? Was it what you expected to see?
I thought I was kind of like giggling at first because it was just fun to see you all like do that. But also it was cool. Like I really liked, I feel like it gave us some good examples of how we can use our own Collab Lab experience and describe like, you know, some of our processes, some of the frictions and like what we did to solve that. And yeah, so I thought that was awesome. And for the technical interview, I really liked how Juliana shared like her process, like when she was asked to do the palindrome question, like she went into MDM and then she explained that she likes to go there as like a reference because it shows like all of the methods for JavaScript. And I thought that was cool, and it gives you an insight into how she works as a developer. And thought she was very cool-headed and also like good at asking questions when maybe she was unsure of what the question was. So, nice job, everyone. Thank you.
And this is part of what we mean when we say that every technical interview is also a behavioral interview. It's a great chance to show how to, you know, how you respond under pressure, how you respond to questions where maybe you don't know the answer.
I loved Juliana's I don't know responses. They were beautiful. I tried to capture some of the spirit in chat, but they were so good. Like I was like, couldn't have done it better. It's so good. Like that's the hardest part, is figuring out how to say I don't know. And so if you can like take what Juliana said and kind of like memorize it in a way, so you can kind of plug in the blanks, fill in the blanks, I feel like you could have a really eloquent I don't know statement.
Yeah, and I loved also, Juliana, how you were just clarifying, you know, like before you would just dive in and try to solve the problem, you were really clarifying, like make sure you understood what you meant and what was expected and things, even as you were going along too, because yeah, it really shouldn't be, you know, the interviewer asks a question and then sits back and you have to like, did I guess correctly or something? If something's unclear, you know, just another person, so you can just talk to them about it.
Yeah, it felt very like comfortable because you made it like conversational rather than like your comfort. I feel like made the whole thing go so much smoother. Even if you were uncomfortable, it didn't show. Like it just felt like we're just friends working through a problem together.
Oh my God, I was super nervous. There's like 9 people on this call.
I know, right? It's tough.
And Juliana doesn't know Scott at all, right? Like this is
right.
the first
It's
email.
like most unlike Stacy and I, who kind of go back a ways. Stacy, I don't know if this was intentional or not on your part, but I would ask a question and then you would kind of reflect back, like at least sort of the gist of it.
That's like a secret you all should grab, like make it a conversation, because then you have to say less. Like make them say more so that you can say less.
Mhm.
And people like to talk about what they know. So managers are going to love to tell you all about things.
Yeah. Well, even there were a couple of points where it was just, you kind of repeated back like what the key points of the question were.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was like, so you kind of give your brain a chance to kind of like, okay, I do understand what's being asked, or if it was to show me that you understood what I was asking, or maybe it was just unconscious, but I felt like it was good. It was like I was like confirming like, oh, okay, yeah,
Check for understanding.
she heard what I said. Yeah.
That's like, I feel like you get tripped up a lot if you don't do that, especially like when I was repeating some of the ones Andrew was asking me, I'm like, so tell you about both sides of it. Like, it was never like, okay, tell me about a time things went good. It's like, tell me about a time things went good and bad. It's like,
Yeah.
well, okay. Oh, great.
Just save me asking one other question.
Yes. There.
Eddie, you're unmuted. You have an observation?
Yeah. So I kind of liked how both interviews like displayed how they were able to interact with the interviewee. Usually, like it is about the code, it is about if you can handle it, but it's also if you're a good fit for the team. And I think, like, say with the second interview, she showed like, hey, I'm gonna ask questions, I'm gonna walk through the problem, and I'm able to work with somebody to solve the problem as well. And then from the first interview, it was like the questions back and forth and making it a conversation versus just one person talking or the other person talking. For me, it would show like, okay, this person's not just a person that wants to work on their own. They want to work with a team. They want to ask questions. And, they want to basically interact with everybody.
Yeah, one thing that EJ was mentioning in the chat, he came in when I was talking about accessibility. I was really hoping you were going to ask me something like deeper about accessibility so I could be like, like, I don't know the answer to that because I haven't had to do that in practice, but I'm really excited to be on a team where we do face problems like that so that I can learn more. I really wanted to say no, that I didn't know.
That's too easy on you.
You were way too easy on me. Would you hire me?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right, we're at time. If any other last comments or questions or observations or anything?
I'm curious about, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I know we're short on time. Go ahead.
No, you, absolutely you.
No, I was just gonna say I really like the two different types of interviews. Stacy was like calm and collected and cool, which is like, oh, all right. And then I do really like how she repeated the question. So, because sometimes I will have deers in the headlight and I'm like, oh my goodness, what did they just ask me? So I really like she said the question back. And then with Juliana and Scott, when she got stuck, Scott helped her out and she took it not in a bad way. And I thought that was really cool. She's like, oh yeah, that's right. Or she's like, thanks for helping me. And, and then they were like a team trying to figure out the issue. And I thought that was like really cool because he didn't just kind of left her out to, fend for herself. He really they both worked together to try to come up with that solution. So I thought that was like really cool and wanted to say that.
That's great.
Yeah, great points.
I'm curious what kind of questions you were going to ask about the take-home assignment.
For the take-home assignment, my main questions revolved around it's kind of a how did you solve this, and sort of like if you had to improve it, what would you do differently if you had more time to solve it, or if you had more resources? What things about the way this is implemented do you think aren't entirely scalable or aren't entirely accessible? What more could you add to it? And that's the kind of thing where I tend to want to keep plugging that relatively deeply. And then sometimes in the course of doing that, although I didn't come up with one in this case, it'd be like, I might add another feature constraint on top of what was assigned during the take home. When it's like a full 45 minutes or an hour to go through that. Those are questions I like to ask as well.
That's cool.
And we implement that on the fly.
It was cool to watch you Juliana like go through things that like were unexpected that you like hadn't prepared for. You were so good at that.
Sorry about that.
No, it's good. I mean, that's real life, you know. Other thoughts, comments, questions? Okay, if not, you'll all have your own mock interviews in just a matter of days. Hopefully a lot of real interviews after that.
Hopefully just a few. And then you get hired. And then you don't have to do it for another year or two.
Exactly. Okay, well, with that, as far as Career Lab goes, we have two more group sessions. One is talking about finances as you navigate a career change. That's on Thursday. That one should be really exciting for everybody. We invited everybody at the Collab Lab because that's a good one. And then we just have a Career Lab graduation on the weekend where we can talk about you and how awesome you are, basically. But the other things that are happening this week is you just need to make sure to go schedule your 2 mock interviews with your mentors. If you haven't already done that, get it in soon so everybody can be prepared. For your job fit interview, send that mentor your LinkedIn. For your technical interview, send them your take-home assignment. That's it. I will get this recording up ASAP. Thanks everybody for coming and watching.
Yeah, thanks Scott and Juliana and Stacy for working in the role plays. Great job. Thanks everybody.
All right, we'll see you all soon. Bye, friends.
See ya.